The Empire tries to take control of Desix. Crosshair gets sent to rescue a hostage. Cody makes a big decision and more as the Sky Guys are back to recap this week's episode of The Bad Batch.
Hello there, welcome back to the Sky Guys. We're recapping Season 2, Episode 3 of The Bad Batch today, The Solitary Clone. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Joining me today, as always, one of the voices here right in the introduction to the podcast every week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Exciting Star Wars day, right? Exciting episode that we got to see. And I'm very excited to see what you guys have to say about it.
Absolutely. A lot of fun here with the Star Wars stuff today. I felt like I heard reviews last night said this could be a good one. I don't think it's disappointed.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
Also with us today here, the Vice Admiral of this podcast, the lead, or we can call him the leader of the Separatist Resistance. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Fantastic. We're here to talk some Bad Batch, and this is, I guess, our first real episode. You know, outside of the premiere, that was a double, so this is our first time doing just one episode, and I'm excited to talk about that one.
Yeah, well, it will not be the last time we do doubles. We got a couple more doubles coming, but it's nice to have a single today.
Yeah, let's do one episode, discuss it, and then see where we go from there.
Absolutely here. And Pete, as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, you like to subscribe, feel free to do so. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. You follow me from over the Just on the Suffering podcast. The Bad Batch coverage is not going there. So if you are not subscribed, you're not going to get coverage of this fantastic episode and all the other ones afterwards.
Absolutely. Definitely subscribe. You will not be sorry. You'll get some really great Star Wars content from us.
Absolutely here. And Nick, if people want to follow us on Instagram, how can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast there. And if they want to follow us on the Twitter, Mike, what do they do?
Same exact handle at Sky Guys Podcast on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the people behind the scenes, Nick usually runs the Instagram. I usually run the Twitter. So like I the Twitter, like we'll be commenting on things, we'll be leaving some thoughts on there, like discussing some news that pops up, but like when we can pops up between podcasts before we discuss it ourselves. So that stuff on the Twitter here, and just follow the YouTube page, Mike Phillips on YouTube. Viewers of the conversations are on the here. You can see all our fancy graphics every week, Pete. And I didn't want to get it here, but you can see in the back corner of the podcast here, I have the Razor Crest Lego model built down there, bottom right.
Very cool. Very cool. It's not the UCS one, though, right? It's the price point below.
Yeah, it is the one that came out in 2019. It was the $130 version.
Still a nice version. Still a great set. I think that's probably a lot more bang for your buck, at least at that price point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would not spend $600 on what they put out for that one.
I agree with that.
All right, let's get some Star Wars news, Nick. There were some interesting items pop up this week.
Yeah, it's a couple small things. First is Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game, as they've mentioned a couple times here, and it's going to be an open world game, and they mentioned that it's going to be huge. So we'll see what they mean by that. Also, they actually announced today, at time of recording, a bunch of games getting canceled and a bunch of other games getting delayed. There's a pirate game they're making called Skull and Bones. It's supposed to come out about 5 years ago, and it got delayed again. So I think it's never going to come. So I'm a little skeptical about them making the Star Wars game now. Maybe it won't come because it looks like they're having some problems over there. But they said it's going to be huge, so that could be cool. Next is the Skeleton Crew show got an update with when it may be coming out. I think it's a bad update. It kind of looks like they're behind on their what's the word I'm looking for, their production process. So I don't really know what's going to happen here. Right now, I think, if I had to take a guess, about a year from now.
Yeah,
do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say, Pete, it seems like from basically what I was reading here is like they're having some issues of production for that show. Like there's a little bit of turmoil behind the scenes with it in terms of like just like actual like production stuff here. I'm not surprised this is like the Book of Boba Fett slot where we get one episode at the end of 2023 and the rest starting and carrying into 2024.
I mean, that's probably the best option now, you know, just based on how they're talking about in the news. I just I think I missed it. Is it delayed or they're just releasing when it's going to be in it?
They're behind schedule, right? They're talking late 2023, early 2024 is more likely that shows. But I think they were hoping it out a little earlier originally.
Yeah, they was originally planning to be wrapping up everything with the development like last month, meaning maybe they can release it sometime in the summer. It looks like maybe 6 months later. Not a huge deal, but
Yeah, I mean, the way that they describe it, it doesn't sound as much as the delay of we finished it, but now we don't want to push it out, almost like they did with Bad Batch and um I think it was just with Bad Batch, right? I don't think there was any other delays there with any other show. But like I think at least there's a reason for it, right? We're not just saying, it's done, but we're not going to publish it until a certain date.
I want my one prediction, Nick, here is like if this is true, I think we're gonna Ahsoka push back longer to try and bridge the gap. We're not going like Mando is done in April, and then are getting Ahsoka in June, then we have nothing until like December. I think we're gonna get Ahsoka delayed just to like fill the gap.
Mando's not done until May, right?
Late April is finished.
Late April, because it's March 1st. So okay, my guess is we get Ahsoka in the late summer.
It's sort of the Andor slot.
In August, yeah, or the Endor slot, correct. But yeah, we don't know. There's a lot more that goes to it than just let's space them out. There's all a bunch of other shows with other studios, Marvel's involved. I guess Disney originals and stuff, and they have a lot going on there besides just let's put this show out this many weeks after this one. Well, there's a lot more moving pieces.
Yeah.
So we don't really know. And lastly, in the news, a rumor. I'm going to put that out there first. This is a rumor. We don't know if this is true yet. There is a new Mandalorian spin-off show in development. Currently, we've already had the Boba Fett show that counts as a Mandalorian spin-off. We'll have Ahsoka coming up. That'll count as a Mandalorian spin-off. So there will be another one. So whether that's a Bo-Katan show or a Moff Gideon show or what was the guy that got what's the lady's name? Pelimoto? Is that her name?
Pelimato.
Pelimato, maybe it's a Pelimato show. We don't know, but one of the characters, maybe a Thrawn show. Who knows? But there should be another show that's rumored. Favreau is involved. I would assume Filoni. I don't know if that is listed.
He is.
But the two of them are supposedly involved in this rumored show. So could be anything. Could be a new character we meet in season 3. Could be one of the characters we met before. We'll see.
Yeah, Pete. The rumored the production title right now. I know these mean nothing. I don't remember infamously that Return of the Jedi was a production title with Blue Harvest went in there. It's called Ghost Track 17. That's sort of what the title working title is right now for this one. And obviously I know the Rebels fans like, oh, Ghost, maybe it's a Rebels time, but we have no idea what this could be. This could be literally anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Nick said it might be a new character that we meet, I feel like that might be the key, right? I mean, we have an Ahsoka show that's kind of, I guess, not a spinoff from Mandalorian, but we were introduced to live action Ahsoka there. Book of Boba Fett, we get reintroduced to Boba Fett. So I mean, I think Nick's correct in saying that it might be a brand new character from the new season of Mandalorian, and that's why it's just coming out that's in development, and we don't know what the character is yet, and they probably won't release that until we meet that character in season 3.
And Nick also went to Skeleton Crew, also in the Mandoverse. That's another. This will be the 4th Mandoverse show after these.
Okay. Which I've voiced my displeasures with the Mandoverse.
Yeah.
In the past, my feeling that it doesn't exist, but hopefully it does. Hopefully the Boba Fett was just a detour.
That's it for the news, right?
That's it for the news.
All right, let's get into this episode here. The Solitary Clone, as I mentioned earlier, I saw some buzz on Twitter last night, people who worked on the show that like this is one of their favorite episodes of the season, that one of the favorite episodes they've done of all time here. And Pete, I thought this was interesting that you did call this correctly last week that this was a Crosshair episode, and it was literally all about Crosshair's story here. We did not see any of the main team in this episode. We just got Crosshair and Cody going on a mission.
Yeah, it concerns me that they think this is the best episode of the entire season, or it's their favorite. It's a concern because I think it's good, but I don't think it's fantastic. And if this is the ceiling, then I'm very concerned for the rest of the season. However, they did a good job when we don't have the rest of the Bad Batch and we don't have Omega, right? I think it was a great episode. I think they were able to capture a lot of character development in both characters, main characters being Cody and Crosshair, pretty well in just a 30-minute episode.
Yeah, and Nick, I do think it's interesting here. Like the tone of this episode also was much, much different than anything we've gotten aside from maybe the premiere of the show, because I feel like they try and make it kid friendly when like Omega's there and have like goofy stuff in there. Like this one was all seriousness.
It was. I think you had mentioned this to me, actually. I think you'd mentioned this to me today when you watched it. It was like a peak Clone Wars type episode, which was, in my opinion, I believe in yours as well, the late season 5 like mall all stuff, and that was very much like this, very much like calm, collected, mature, not really kiddie and happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, what do you think it says though about the show? Like, this is one of our favorite episodes so far. Like, and the main almost all the main characters are not in it except for Crosshair.
I've learned that it doesn't mean anything because at the time, about a year ago, we thought it was crazy that the best episode of the Boba Fett show didn't include Mando. Or excuse, you know what I'm trying to say. The best episode of the Boba Fett shows were the ones about Mando and not Boba Fett. We're like, this is bad for the show, this is bad for the show. And then you know what? Looking back, was it bad for the show? I think it's great those episodes were there. They were good. I don't care if who's in it or not. I want to watch good episodes. So I don't think it tells us anything really. And this episode had a lot of good things about it and a lot of questions that I have too. And not like questions in a bad way, like why was this like that? Questions like, this is interesting. I never thought of that. Never thought of that. And we'll get into all those. So I'm excited.
Yeah, let's dive into this episode here, and starts off here on a planet called Desix. It's an old separatist planet where the Empire sends, I think, what's the guy's name, Nick? Is it Admiral like Rutten or like Crutton or something like that? Or who's the admiral the governor they sent over?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I will look up the governor's name, but they send him and a bunch of like clone troopers to basically assume control of this world. They are met by a resistance from Tawny Ames, who is the separatist leader there. She reveals that like, we declined your offer. We're fine governing ourselves. We're independent from the Republic. They said, no, sorry, not sorry, too bad. We're going to take over. And then we find out Pete the Cheese got a whole collection of battle droids operational defending the planet. And they basically kidnap this governor and just say, nope, like you're a hostage. We're not dealing with this.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool callback. I think I liked having almost like we discussed this already, but it felt like watching Clone Wars. We can talk about this a little bit later too. The whole separatist thing being in this season, I kind of want your thoughts on where you think it's going to go, and if we're going to see that kind of revolution with the clones. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I did think that here. And Nick, it was definitely fun to see the battle droids come back.
It was, but the first thing I noticed is when the Empire first arrived on the planets, they're with stormtroopers, not clone troopers.
Yeah.
And I don't know, are these clones in a new sort of transitional armor that's on the way to stormtrooper? Are these human soldiers? We don't know this yet. And that's where I found like one of the most interesting things about the episode is we're in that transition period we've never seen before. And actually the model that they used for the stormtroopers in this episode was originally the first ever design of the stormtroopers for A New Hope. And they used that design and put it in here, which was interesting. But that's a very interesting thing to think about is who's under those masks right now? Were those clones or were those stormtroopers like humans?
Yeah, definitely take a look at that here. And then we see this sort of goes on here. It's Governor Groton is the guy who is taken captive by the people of Desix here. And then we start out Pete following Crosshair a bit because we see, he wakes up in like a very meager room. He's like going to eat. Nobody wants to sit with him. And then he gets summoned by Vice Admiral Rampart to sort of get his new assignments here. And we find out basically that, he is not disclosed that the Bad Batch are still alive. He claimed that he was just left abandoned on Camino for 32 days before the Empire found him here and all that fun stuff. So, like, what do you think about where we are picked up with Crosshair from where we left it in season 1?
It's interesting, right? I think we see Crosshair a little bit vulnerable. Not in the sense that he needs approval from other people, but in the first season, I felt like he was this commanding officer that was, at least at the time, from what you see, may possibly respected, right? Stormtrooper, clone trooper was following him into battle, last season. He was kind of like the guy, and now all of a sudden he's not anymore. He's kind of like brought back down to earth, even though he was a elite clone trooper at the time. I think it was. I think they try to put a little bit of humor in there, almost like the 9 to 5. Okay, wake up, go to breakfast. Okay, getting called to the office. I think they try to put a little bit of humor in there, but I think Crosshair doesn't give much up. Once he starts talking about the mission, we'll get to that too. He's very just like, yep, I'm just going to follow orders. What's my next mission? What do I do? And that's it.
Yeah, Nick, anything you want to add what we saw from Crosshair when we first pick up with him?
No, not really. It's more or less what I would have expected after his time on Camino and what happened at the end of season 1. So nothing really to add.
I also did think it was interesting when he meets with Rampart, Nick, where like he basically says, I'm ready to command, and Rampart's like, no, I'm not ready to give you that responsibility yet. You're gonna work with others. I can see how you're doing. So like he wanted to go back to, I'm gonna lead this group, and he's sort of like being forced to be a cog in the machine again.
I could see him being a bad leader just because you ever hear that that I don't know what the word is, but that saying that those who are so great are not good at teaching.
Mm.
It was almost like he would expect all of everyone under him to be able to shoot the way he does, and be in combat the way he is, and they wouldn't be able to do that. So I think it's better for him that he doesn't lead. I don't think he'd be great at it because, like I said, everyone not being able to do what he can do would be like a problem for him.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And Pete, we do see then that like we find out from Rampart that he was his press requested on a mission by Commander Cody, who we have not really heard from in canon. I mean, yes, he's in Clone Wars. This is the first time we've heard what happened, seen him since I think the events of episode 3 here. Like, how does it see Cody back on our screen?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was really cool. And I'm excited to see where and how he progresses in this season.
Yeah, Nick, I thought it was interesting when Cody shows up here that like Crosshair basically says like, "Oh, you requested me," and then like Cody's first line of question is like, "Hey, like you were with your team, like they all sort of abandoned the Empire. Like, what's going on with that?" And he sort of drops the hint that like some of these clones been going AWOL recently, so you sort of get the sense that maybe Cody's trying to pry information out of Crosshair, and Crosshair's not picking up what he's putting down.
Yeah, and that pretty much confirms what the season's going to be about. It's going to be about some clones going AWOL, and we're going to have to find out whether it's the chip wore off, they removed their chip, they're learning to fight against the chip. I don't know what it is yet. We'll see. And that's what the season is going to be about, which is a good plot. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, P, what do you think of that conversation Cody has with Crosshair before they go on the mission to go try and get the governor back?
Yeah, it was cool. This is part of the character development this is the start of their arc, right? For me. And I think that as we progress on, we talk about more, we'll see how that conversation kind of grows, character development wise.
Yeah, I did like the note about the clones going AWOL. It was a good foreshadowing for what happens at the end of the episode here. And then we sort of see they go to Desix, and then Cody's basically telling the crew, it's like, hey, like, we're not going here to negotiate. We're going to just go take the governor and leave. So like we're not like the Empire's not wanting us negotiating. And then the Tony Ames and her crew quickly point out onto this here. And then we see that basically they have this tactical droid leading everything. They shoot down the ship. So I gotta give credit to the Separatists there, Pete. That like they're not stupid. They know the Empire is gonna try and is not gonna play ball with them.
Yeah, I think they're just using their experience from when they were going against the Republic, right? And they were maybe even going against Dooku at one point when he wasn't doing the right thing by them. To me, it was a little bit automatic, not to say rushed, but it was just like, oh, they're here, they must be here to hurt us, let's blow them out of the sky kind of a thing. Unless I missed something in the episode that kind of made it seem like this was a hostile threat. Not to say that they think they jumped the gun, but I think, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the governor starts talking about how she wants peace, but is immediately, oh, I'm going to shoot this plane down, I don't know what it's for, but we're going to shoot it down. So that was like the little bit of like the immediate kind of automatic knee-jerk response I just didn't think worked for the episode.
And they did stay too, because this comes right after this conversation that Tony Ames has with Governor Grotto when she's like, he's saying, oh, you should release me, the Empire's sending a team here to get me, and she's like, we're not negotiating. It's like you basically have a second you throw the Count Dooku reference where she's talking about like like our leader Dooku foresaw what's gonna happen, your republic's gonna collapse and become this like militaristic state, when the governor is trying to sell like, oh, we're trying to bring peace and prosperity to everybody. And it's funny that we have this, that you see the Separatist side. I think that Dooku's just a martyr who went down the cause. And then we all know that Dooku was playing this to sort of like set up what was going on for the Empire.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Good point. For me, this mission was like fantastic because I realized something halfway through it that I was like, wait, oh my God, that worked. They pinned us against people that we're familiar with. That same tactical droid we've seen how many times now?
A lot.
The battle droids that we've seen, hundreds of times at this point. We were rooting for the Empire.
Yeah.
They made it so that we were rooting for the Empire in that, because it felt like we were rooting for the Republic. That felt like there were a group of clones going in and taking down Separatists. Essentially, that's exactly what it was. But They had us rooting for the Empire in that episode throughout the majority of that mission to make sure they're okay and get their hostage back. How many times can you say in Star Wars you rooted for the Empire?
I mean, Andor did this a little bit with Dead Ramiro.
Yeah. Okay. So not many times though. You know, not until 2022 have you rooted for the Empire, right?
Yep.
And they made us root for the Empire in this. That I realized it halfway through the battle there. I was like, yeah, they're clones. Yeah, it's Crosshair, whatnot. I don't know. Is Crosshair a villain in this show? Yes, but not really. He reminds me of like Wario from the Mario games. It's kind of like a villain, but he'll also, he'll play Mario. He'll play kart with you. He'll play golf with you too.
Yeah.
So I just find it unbelievable that they had us rooting for the Empire in this, and I think that's such a great job. Well done.
Yeah, Nick made a great point about this P also, especially when we see all the cool stuff Crosshair is doing to get to the mission. Like when he's using his sniper skills, he shoots his gun right through the laser, through the barrel of the tank's cannon, blows it up. And he's using like these mirrors to like shoot shots off mirrors and mow droids down. You're like, this is pretty cool. And you're like, wait, I'm rooting for the bad guys.
100%. I mean, Nick nailed it. This was thinking back on it, it's kind of weird, right? Just like Nick said, when was the last time you rooted for the Empire and they were doing such cool things, or Crosshair was at least, that you were so immersed in it. I mean, that action scene went by like that for me because I was having fun with it, right? I was enjoying it. So definitely really cool. I think they really paint Crosshair in a really cool light. And this is him after being out of commission for a while. So it kind of makes you feel like, oh, wait, like maybe we'll get a better Crosshair than when we saw, last season.
Yeah, and Nick, we do see that like basically Crosshair is the one who figures out quickly. It's like, hey, they're all organized. They have a tactical droid. We take the tactical droid out. Like they're gonna fall apart like everything. So the whole mission gets the tactical droid, and then we see it is the last shot where he sets up like shoots his shot off of like 5 mirrors, and then gets the tactical droid in the head, and then the whole army sort of goes up in flames. So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we were rooting for them. Everything they did that was cool, we were cheering. We were like, and then we realized after that, oh wait, we shouldn't have been rooting for them, but too late.
Yeah, I think they do a good job, P, sort of hiding the connections that the Separatist people have to references we know from Clone Wars. Because at the end there, we see that Cody and Crosshair get up to the main chamber there, where Lear Tawny Ames is holding Governor Groton hostage. We find out that she was a senator in the Separatist Senate, like working with Mina Bonteri, who, back from Clone Wars, nearly made a deal with Padme Amidala to end the Clone Wars peacefully before Dooku bombs the Senate and sort of blows the whole thing up. So I thought that was a very fun callback.
100%. I thought that was as well. I have to be honest, I forgot about the trying to go through Padme. I just remember there was peaceful talks. But yeah, that was, and it's ironic, right? Because we see how, like I said, this governor wanted peace, but then is immediately just knee-jerk reaction. Let me blow up a plane that's coming at us. So it's just a ship, I should say. It's interesting that there's that dynamic with that character.
Yeah, Nick, I did also find this thing where like Cody's trying to like negotiate, try and get the governor released, and she's talking like, "Oh, you're shooting at it." It's like she's like, "Well, we were defending ourselves. We were minding our own business. You guys kept showing up with stormtroopers and like all these guns and trying to like take over our land when we just asked to be left alone."
I think that line right there is where the moral dilemma hits Cody, and he kind of realizes, maybe I'm in the wrong here. If you remember, Cody was the first one we ever saw execute Order 66 from Revenge of the Sith. He was the first one to get it when he shot at Obi-Wan. Like, it's something that I think is to be noted here. I think that's, like I said earlier, this is, in my opinion, I think in pretty much anyone's opinion, this is the theme of the season.
Yeah,
it's the moral dilemma within the clones, which is a very interesting storyline, and I'm glad we got it. And I think that's when it starts in Cody.
Yeah, and it is a great point because Cody basically talks down. It's like, hey, like let's do this differently. Like let's have some peace. Like you let him go. Like we'll leave and go on our merry way. And like she agrees. She lets Groton go, and then Groton immediately Weasel's like, okay, good job, Cody. Let's kill her. And then he's hesitant. And Pete, we all sort of knew like, okay, Crosshair is there. He's taking the shot.
Yeah, Crosshair is definitely the clone that just takes orders and is loyal to his army, right? I think there is right now we see, at the end of season 1, you see a little bit of a moral compass, but I think we're right back to what the Crosshair is that we see in season 1 in the beginning, where there's no moral compass. It's this is who I am. This is what I'm fighting for. If you don't like it, that's on you. I'll do whatever it needs to be done. And I think we see that. I'm surprised he didn't shoot sooner. I got to be honest. I think they probably just did it to build the tension in that scene, but I'm surprised Crosshair just didn't just immediately go for it when the governor says to pull the trigger.
Well, to be fair to him, though, I mean, like that point of the scene is the first time that like he's actually getting at this up until the governor's release. Cody's the superior in the mission. Cody's trying to handle it peacefully, and then Groden comes in. He gives Cody a chance to follow the order. Says, "You know what? It's not getting done. I got to do it."
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I always forget that kind of chain of command, but still, I am still surprised he didn't do it sooner.
Yeah. And Nick, we see at the end here, we see sort of Cody like watching what's going on here. We see all like the clones who are injured being helped off. See stormtroopers coming in, basically rounding up people who are insurgents, and all the droids being cleaned up. It sort of reminds you again, like, boy, we picked the wrong side in this episode, because like these people are be suffering a lot now.
Yep, absolutely. Kind of one thing I noticed about this episode, and I've noticed about the previous episode too. I mentioned, I don't know if it was 1 or 2, but I mentioned it last week. I keep getting the sense that Andor and this show being delayed was kind of on purpose to be after Andor. Like this planet, what was the planet called again? Desix?
Essex, yes.
Desix is the kind of world that pre-Andor I wouldn't care much about. I would look at it and say it's an ugly world. No one here probably cares about their world, whatever. And you see the same thing on Ferrix, where it's like these two worlds that are not really pretty, not a good place to live. Doesn't seem they have a lot of pride and stand up for what they believe in, and that's something you don't really see until here. These small planets in the past, we just kind of go, get taken control of, over. And Ferrix, now Desix, I almost feel like this show is delayed on purpose to teach us lessons at Andor and now show it to us again here.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And then we do end up going back to Coruscant, which is where the two planets episodes bounce between. Cody and Crosshair are back. I think it looks like some kind of like memorial for the Clone Wars. It looks like they're like a Vietnam War style memorial there, where Cody and Crosshair have this great conversation, Pete, where Cody basically asks him, it's like, hey, like, did we do the right thing here at the war? Like, are we on the right side? And Crosshair says, like, it's not our decision to make. We just follow the orders they're given to us. And Cody has this great line, which is the last line of the episode. It's like, hey, like, there's a difference between us and the droids. The droids just get orders and don't think. We have to live what we do and live with those choices for the rest of our lives. I thought that was a very telling line from Cody.
100%. I think this starts the character development for Crosshair a little bit, because you kind of see that hesitation. You see that kind of self reflection in his eyes, like, okay, maybe I did something wrong. And at least that's my interpretation of it. But Crosshair has been very black and white for pretty much the entire time we've seen him in any sort of animation, right? Clone Wars and also in this. And I feel like anytime we do see a little bit of the human, he just snaps back into black and white. It's either this or this. I got orders. That's the end of it. So I'm hoping that this is the start of that character development. And it definitely is the start of, I think, a great story arc for Cody for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's for sure here, because Nick, you want to add something about this.
I do. I think that line is obviously incredibly important, and this is my example, my analogy to it. Like, I don't write anymore. I don't write essays or anything like that. I'm not sure if you guys do in your line of work. I know, Mike, you do write, but I don't know if you still write essays or anything like that. But in the school, we used to write essays all the time, growing up in college, whatnot. And in the essay, let's say it was a 5-paragraph essay, the way it would work is you had that intro paragraph, and the end of that intro paragraph was always what? Your thesis statement, right?
Yep.
To me, this is the thesis statement of the season. It's like we've reached the end of that first paragraph. This is the thesis statement. This is what it's going to be about. We're different from the droids because we have to live with our decisions, and that's the show. It's going to be clones living with their decisions, clones going against their decisions. But like I said earlier, either removing the chip, finding a way to combat it, or whatever it may be. And I think this is our thesis of the season. It's clones are different than droids because clones have to live with their decisions.
Yeah, Pete, you want to add anything on this before we move on?
No, I think that was very well said. I agree with Nick.
All right. So to wrap up here, then we go back to the Crosshair, usual routine, like go to sleep, wake up, eat breakfast alone, get summoned in by Rampart. He gets another mission, gets assigned a different clone commander, and then Crosshair's like, wait, what about Cody? He's like, Well, Cody has gone missing. Like he is not. He's AWOL right now. And then he does a dig in at Crosshair, Nick. He's like, like all these clones seem to like hang out with you, seem to go disappear after that. So I wonder if you're the problem. Just sort of like as an aside.
Maybe it's his words.
Yeah.
What he says, like when he says something like that, like we're not like essentially says, I don't remember the exact line, but essentially says we're not paid to think. Maybe they start getting, they're not robots, so they think like to themselves, well, I don't like that attitude. Maybe I should go against that. Maybe it's something he's saying. Or maybe he's secretly working with the rebellion. We don't know. We'll find out. I doubt it.
Yeah, we don't. If you and then Pete, you sort of see he takes his next order. He leaves. Like there's a look on his face at the end. I couldn't figure out what was going through his mind as the end of the episode on that shot here. What did you think he was thinking about at that point?
I don't know. I don't know if it was concerned that something is connected to him because I forgot the guy's rank, but he was connecting like, oh, everyone that leaves, like you said, everyone leaves that's under your commander that that's connected to you. So I don't know if he's concerned or if he's thinking about himself. Maybe, we are doing the wrong thing. Like I said, maybe a little self-reflection in there. I also think maybe he's just getting annoyed and just wants to get the job done and probably get back to being a commander and not just like flip-flopping all these different kind of groups that he's in.
I think I sort of read this like a seeded doubt started just playing itself in Crosshair's brain. Like, like this guy who I spent this mission on and like really had a bond with in some way or form, like he worked me one time, he abandoned me. And like, I wonder, like, was I right or was he right?
No, I agree. I completely agree with you. That's what I think exactly what it is.
I also think, Nick, is interesting in this episode that Crosshair requested Cody. Cody requested Crosshair for his team. He's requesting different clones to come through here. I saw this theory on Twitter. I don't know your take on it here. It's like, I wonder if Cody's looking for like a reason to leave at this point, and he figured, like the Bad Batch all left. Like, let me get the one guy who's still here to pick his brain and figure out why they left. And he didn't really get until he saw where Crosshair did. He decided, okay, now's the time to leave.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that was a popular theory floating around Twitter early today. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Pete, or you want to just head into our trackers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just like that Crosshairs, the pushing over the edge for all these clones. It's like you're the bad example. I know you're the bad example, so that's why I want to move on.
Yeah, so they're gonna move on. We're gonna move on here. That was the end of the episode. A very fun episode to see here, and touch on our trackers here. Pete Hondo. We know Hondo yet. 18 appearances from him still. So I wonder if we get him.
Season's still early. I wouldn't count it out yet. I don't know if we will, because if this is going to be very clone centered, I don't know. But I mean, look, anything's possible. I
would assume that like Wanda Sykes' characters probably are into Hondo.
Yeah, if there's going to be pirates, it'd be a big miss to not have him in the show.
All right. Nick, the live action cameo hits for sure this week because we got Commander Cody. He makes his first appearance in Revenge of the Sith. Do you want to do a catch-all and throw battle droids in there, or you want to leave them out?
Sure. It's just one, though, obviously.
Yeah, like one point for the group of battle droids.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we're going to make this 2 live-action cameos here for the Commander Cody and the battle droids here. Nick, we also hit up to 5 planets. Now, we add Desix and Coruscant to our list, so you were right. This thing's going to be way over 20.
I think so. That's our over-under. It's 19 and a half, so we'll see.
Yep. Pete. No Sid missions. Better episode.
It's funny. It was almost kind of the same vibe.
Yeah.
Come into the office, get a mission, go do the mission, come back. Here's another mission. So slightly annoyed at that. However, I think it was done better. I'm glad it wasn't Sid.
Yeah.
But it was pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, Sid's missions I feel like are more pointless to us than the Empire missions.
Yeah, they're more like, hey, you got to get some cash. Let's figure it out. This was more like there's a hostage situation. This was more Clone Wars mission-esque.
Yeah, for sure here. And last but not least here, we're at Commander Cody, the clone tracker, Nick. So we're up to 3 named clones on the show.
All right, that sounds great.
All right, so we are well on track there. And now we're going to go to the next part of our show here. We're going to do the MVP and LVP board, which we are now up to date on. We have a graphic built for that. So I'm going to throw it on the screen real quick here and pop up here. This is after the first 2 episodes here. Our +1s right now, Wrecker, Romar, and Echo. Our negative ones are Sid, Vice Admiral Rampart, and Omega. And Vice Admiral Rampart's the only one from the list to appear in this episode. So he's the only one who has a chance to go up or down here. So
that's interesting that none of us had any of the same picks last week. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool here. So I don't know if it's the case this week here. I'm going to start with Pete this week. Give me your MVP of the week.
MVP is Cody. He makes the right decision. It's cool to see him on screen. He's still pretty much a badass. So I'm going to give him the MVP.
Nick, your MVP.
Cody. I can't see how it could be anybody else. I don't see. Yeah, as I mentioned, that none of us had the same answer. I'm sure we all have the same answer now.
Yeah, we do. It's Cody. Cody's like doing his mission. He has the moment of moral clarity where he realizes, like we're not doing the right thing here. We're invading these people's homes. Like, let's try and find a peaceful way out of this. And he resists the order to take the shot, which is the wrong thing to do. And Crosshair takes the order and takes the shot. So I give Cody credit here. He did a good thing here. And he does, what, like I could get the hell out of Dodge after that. So he's off probably the parts unknown for a little bit. Let's go the other way now. The LVP here. Nick, you can start us off on this one.
It's the governor, not the one.
Governor Groton.
How do you pronounce it? Groton?
Yep.
Groton?
Yep.
Groton is the LVP here. Just as simple as the one fact that when he was let go as a hostage, he just said, kill her. Like that to me is immoral, and that's enough to get you an LVP on the Sky Guys.
Yeah, I'm going to give one here. I'm trying to think here, too. There's another candidate besides Governor Groton here. Like, I'm going to give Crosshair a demerit here because, he is pretty cool in this episode. Like, he does, show off his skills. But, like, this, again, goes back to what Pete said here. Like, we thought we got a little bit of growth from him at the end of last season where he said, I'm not going to rat you guys out. Like, I don't agree with your decision, but I'm going to sort of, like, let you do your own thing. But he's right back to follow orders. Don't even think about what it means. I'm just going to do it. And then he sort of gets like humbled by Cody at the end. And we give him the LVP. Pete, you want to wrap up this section?
Yeah, I'm giving it to the other governor. I can't remember her name, but I did like how
Tony Ames.
Yep. So I'm going to harp on the fact that she was a little hypocritical and talked about peace and all that kind of stuff. And she kind of started all this by taking them hostage, and they come to obviously get their governor. Like I don't understand what she expected was going to happen when she took a governor hostage, but she kind of started all this. Not to say she should have just rolled over and just said, yeah, you're the governor now of this place. But I feel like if she was really peaceful, she wouldn't have gone through all these non-peaceful strategies. So I give her the LVP.
Agree, disagree. But we'll leave it at that here. And
when you guys watch the episodes, do you think, I'm sure you do, Mike, because you're putting together this list here and this breakdown of what we talk about. But Pete, do you actually think who's my MVP, who's my LVP? Because I literally always forget until about an hour before we're recording, and then I scramble to think of one.
So I when I'm watching it at the end of the episode, I say, this character left me with a positive taste in my mouth. This one left me with a negative taste in my mouth. And as much as I don't want to root for the Empire when it comes to my LVP, at least, that character was like, okay, like this is how the Empire works. This is how the Empire is. You know how the Empire is. You brought it upon yourself. So that's kind of how I did it. So, and that's how I try to do it. Sometimes I forget about it and I'm like, oh crap, wait, I knew it, 3 hours ago. But now that we're talking about the episode, I change, and sometimes I'm swayed from the conversation. So it at least this week I was very stuck on my pick. But usually, it kind of can come to last minute, or I'm like kind of stuck on and said, no, you guys can say whatever you want about the episode. I'm definitely going with this one.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least here, Gray's the so I'll start this one off here. I'm gonna give this one a 9. I feel like this is a much better story than we got last week. I may be a little overreacting. I was enjoy this a lot more, but I love the moral dilemma. I like the simplified story here of Cody and Crosshair. We get duped into rooting for the Empire here. We see that Cody makes a choice. Crosshair makes a choice to counter that. They have the dilemma debate at the end. I enjoyed that whole situation here. It's a good setup for, as Nick points out, the theme of the season here. So I'm going to give this a 9 here. So, Pete, where are you going with?
I'm going a little bit lower. I'm going to say about a 7.5. I still think it was very good, but I think there could be a lot better episodes. I don't like that it still followed the same here's a mission, go complete it format that we've seen in Bad Batch time and time again. Yes, Sid wasn't involved. However, to me, same kind of theme, just wrapped differently, right? Different skin, if you will. So 7.5, though it was great. Though it was enjoyable. I think there's a lot better episodes in the Star Wars universe that topped it. So I got to give it a 7.5.
Nick, your grade.
For me, this is a 10. This is a 10 for me. I think to myself when I do these ratings, I think to myself, I'm rating these episodes based on this show. If this is the same exact episode we got in an episode of Andor, it may have been lower. An episode of Mandalorian, it may have been lower. But when I get up in the morning and I watch this show, for those who don't know, roughly 5:30, 6 a.m. usually I watch these. This is the most I'm expecting. I would not expect anything more than this. So to me, if this is the most I'm expecting out of an episode, it can't get better to me. Like this is what I'm thinking it is. That's what I think the ceiling of the show is. That's why I'm giving it a 10.
All right, there you have it. That's the week on the Bad Batch. Next week's episode title here, not going to help as much here. It's called Faster, Pete. So I have no idea what this could be about.
It's gonna be pod racing again.
I think Omega's going pod racing.
Probably.
Or better yet, she's going to race through the streets of Mos Espa with the mayor's assistant.
Yeah, and the Cyberpunk Power Rangers.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for this week. We'll be back next week to cover Faster on the podcast. I know you guys are coming on. I really appreciate it. Pete, if you want to follow on social media, I'm not going to do that.
Follow me on Twitter at PJ Consadori 29.
All right, Nick, people want to follow the Instagram one more time. I'm not going to do that.
At Sky Guys Podcast. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the same handle for the Twitter.
That is correct.
All right.
You can also follow me on Twitter, mphillips331. That's MPHILIPS331. This week on Just on Suffering podcast, you got ready for the NFL playoffs here. I was joined by Daryl Slater, the Star Ledger, to preview the Giant game against Minnesota. And Nick, friend of the podcast, your brother Phil Fraietta is on to do the NFL picks.
Did he do them yet?
As of this recording, no, but it's being done basically right after this one.
Yeah, all right.
So that episode's going to be out in the podcast feed there on Thursday, so you can listen to it in the morning if you would like. But we'll be back next week for more Bad Batch. Until then, may the Force be with you.